Good, happy Friday morning, everyone. I'm Riley King. It's Friday, November 6th, 2020. And welcome to this Friday morning edition of The News with Riley King. Still no winner in the president race, but it is getting close and Biden is still in the lead. Let's begin with a look at your national election results in the president race and election updates and all that. Let's get started right now. I hope you enjoy watching this morning edition of The News with Riley King. Let's begin. And here is a look at the number right now. As you can see, Joe Biden has 253 and Donald Trump still has 214. Either Joe Biden or Trump need 270 to win this race. So as you can see right now, Joe Biden is still in the lead. Here is your election 2020 live updates and results. Votes are still being counted in several key states. Your top headlines: Biden takes the lead in Georgia. Biden chips away at Trump's lead in Pennsylvania. If 2018 was the year of the woman, 2020 is the year of even more women. Federal court denies Trump campaign complaint to stop Philadelphia vote count. November 6, 5:18 a.m. update. Biden increases his edge over Trump in Arizona. Biden leads in Arizona, increased by 795 votes overnight, as the longtime Republican stronghold edges toward flipping blue. As of 4:40 a.m. Friday, Biden has 1,532,062 votes, 50.1%, while Trump has 1,488,010 votes, 48.5%, with 90% of the expected vote reporting statewide. That's a difference of 47,052 votes. About 263,000 ballots are left to be counted in the Grand Canyon state, where 11 electoral college votes are up for grabs. Republican candidates have won Arizona in every presidential election, but won since 1952. Bill Clinton flipped the red state to blue in 1996. Race for 2020. Trump supporters in states where votes are still being counted held Stop the Stall rallies. This comes after Trump falsely claimed he won the election and claimed without evidence that the election is being rigged. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Overnight, Trump supporters holding Stop the Steal rallies in states where votes are still being counted.
He's already won the election.
In Philadelphia, streets packed with protesters, police using barricades to separate dueling rallies. Some demanding every vote be counted, others decrying ballot fraud. The protests coming hours after President Trump defiantly declared victory.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win.
Trump claiming without evidence that the election was rigged.
I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories.
Legal experts calling the president's accusations of massive voter fraud baseless.
It's very worrying because there's no doubt that a lot of people who support him will think he must be telling the truth, that where there's smoke, there's fire. It's really damaging to American democracy.
Joe Biden urging people to keep the faith, tweeting overnight that no one is going to take our democracy away from us. America has come too far, fought too many battles, and endured too much to let that happen.
We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So, I ask everyone to stay calm.
President Trump also suggesting ballots in Pennsylvania are being received after the allotted time.
Partisan Democrats have allowed ballots in the state to be received 3 days after the election, and we think much more than that.
But election officials insist they're counting legally cast ballots. That's because the day before the election, the Supreme Court ruled against the president's campaign and allowed a 3-day extension for receiving absentee ballots in Pennsylvania. The president also making this claim.
In Philadelphia, observers have been kept far away, very far away, so far that people are using binoculars to try and see it.
A picture from the Philadelphia Inquirer does show an election watcher standing behind a barrier using binoculars to observe counting inside Philadelphia's convention center. A judge later granted the Trump campaign's request to allow observers to get a closer view. The president also saying windows at counting locations are being papered over.
And it became a little bit dangerous. One major hub for counting ballots in Detroit covered up the windows again with large pieces of cardboard.
Workers at a Detroit counting location did cover windows at the site. But that was after what officials described as a chaotic confrontation when protesters arrived at the building. Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany retweeting video of the windows being covered with more than 7 million views and the caption, "Shady." This morning, election officials tell the New York Times the windows were covered because of concern about people taking unauthorized photographs and videos. The president also claiming that the election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats. But Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, is a Republican. Trump even endorsed him in 2018. In the meantime, some Republicans are pushing back against the president.
Because I know there's a lot of people who think this election is stolen. A lot of people think there's fraud. And you know what? There may be fraud. There may be all that. We don't know that right now. And for the president to go out there and claim that without any evidence of that is dangerous.
Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn, an ally of the president, requesting to see evidence of any irregularities.
What I think is that if there are irregularities, let's document them.
And overnight, Senator Lindsey Graham standing by the president, even donating $500,000 to Trump's legal defense fund.
He stood with me. He's the reason we're going to have a Senate majority. My race was overwhelming. He helped Senate Republicans. We're going to pick up House seats.
And Donald Trump Jr. last night vowing to fight.
I think the number one thing that Donald Trump can do in this election is fight each and every one of these battles to the death so that we get full transparency in the process.
Back to Senator Lindsey Graham. When asked if the state legislature in Pennsylvania should pick the state's electors, he said everything is on the table. And Senator Ted Cruz also saying, quote, "We may well see state legislatures getting involved." Kenneth, Mona.
Andrew Fajii, thank you so much for that report. Police.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Georgia's voting system implementation manager on the votes being counted in the state. Our goal is to count and report every single legal vote. Let's take a listen to that video from Good Morning America.
It's going about the way we expected when you have this many absentee ballots because of the pandemic. We've never had to deal with this many people in our lives before, and we also launched a new voting system. So we've been telling people for 2 months, guess what? It's not going to be Tuesday night, it's probably not going to be Wednesday. So we're still kind of going through that process. But right now, as it stands, we have 8,197 absentee ballots and a small bit of early vote in that same mix coming from the county he was talking about, Gwinnett County. And on top of that, though, this is a process. There are ballots that military and overseas, they come in today. And you and I both know from our own histories, there's going to be hundreds of Republicans and Democrat operatives around the state finding people to cure their absentees or to verify their provisional votes, because this vote counting will continue as we follow the laws in this state.
So walk us through that. You say there are about 8,197 that you know of ballots that are out there, mostly in Gwinnett County. When do you expect those to be reported?
Well, hopefully today, but we have 444 votes in Floyd County. Cobb County has about 700. Lawrence County in South Georgia has 1,797. We expect them to be coming in through the day. But like I said before, there are still ballots that will be coming in from the military and overseas. There's 8,899 of those that are available to come in still because of the UOCAVA law, which is a federal law to allow our military heroes to vote from overseas. So there's a lot of field left out here.
And explain this process that Steve Osunsami was just talking about, curing ballots.
Well, there's two different kinds of ballots that are still essentially effective right now. You have an absentee ballot, and let's say you mailed it in and you forgot to sign it. So we can't know who you are. So they got to try to track you down and say, hey, come in here and give us your signature and or your ID. And that way they know we can count this vote. And then there's a different kind of thing called a provisional ballot where you have to verify certain items. Some of them are automatically counted. Some of them the voter has to come and show their ID like it didn't have the voter ID at the time.
You heard the president complaining about fraud, talking about illegal ballots. Have you seen any irregularities, any evidence of widespread irregularities in the counting in the state of Georgia?
Well, widespread irregularities is always, I love the term voter fraud because it's very vague. We've had reports of specific things. We send investigators out to look for specific evidence and the reality behind those. We always get those in every election. It's a normal thing. We have not seen anything so widespread that it could potentially affect the outcomes. But as you know, when you have a race that's this close, even the smallest thing can affect those outcomes. So we're going to be diligent. The counties are being diligent. They're working hard. They are all exhausted. But we feel like they're doing a good job and they're treating everybody fairly. You know, I'm from Georgia. We have SEC football here. And, you know, oftentimes when my Georgia Bulldogs don't have a good game, we don't want to blame the refs and the rules. But in this case, the refs and the rules are treating everybody the same. And we know the outcome of this election, we're going to have an audit afterwards. And we have a very good likelihood it's going to be within 0.5%. And under our laws, whoever comes in second in this election, they can request a recount under our law.
Right, but the votes you're counting are votes that were submitted legally.
Yeah, our goal is to count and report every single legal vote.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Two men who were found outside the Pennsylvania Convention Center are being held after Philadelphia police were notified of the threat of an attack. The two men got detained and taken into custody. It's clear, talking to both Democrats and Republicans, that they feel that this is headed in Joe Biden's direction. NBC Casey Hunt says, let's take a listen to that video right now.
I think overnight, everyone has been very nervous, on pins and needles, but it's clear, talking to both Democrats and Republicans, that they feel that this is headed in Joe Biden's direction and that it's simply a matter of time. And I think you're seeing that play out not just in the vote counting that Chuck just explained why that is in terms of the numbers, but in terms of the narrative as well and the way people are starting to talk about this. And Republicans in particular have been really cautious and largely said, in the face of President Trump coming out and making baseless claims about the way the counting is going, they've been saying, just wait, count the votes. All the legal ballots need to come in. And that signals to me that a lot of them think that this may be the last day that we're going to be waiting to find out whether or not President Trump will be reelected, and they're betting that he won't be. I think overnight, everyone has been very nervous.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this edition of The News with Riley King. Thank you for watching this edition of The News with Riley King. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another edition of The News with Riley King. Goodbye, everyone.